Hi everyone, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan. I am born and raised in South Africa, but I moved to the Netherlands 5 years ago with my family. And the reason we moved was due to crime and safety issues, which a lot of people here don't know about and don't know that that happens in South Africa, which really surprises me because we have such high levels of violence and crime. I think it was a year or two ago, I made a video about my experiences living in the Netherlands and what surprised me about it since I moved here. I got a lot of comments on that video. Some people that agreed, but a lot of people that disagreed with what I was saying. I get that. Everyone has different experiences and different opinions. So I wanted to make this video today sharing my updated point of views. I wanted to share some things that I've changed my mind about, some things that I may have been wrong about, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get into it. So in my original video, one of the topics I discussed was Dutch people being very direct, which was something I wasn't used to coming from South Africa. When I first got here, it was a shock for me because culturally in South Africa, very friendly, it's very welcoming, and we do tend to beat around the bush. And I've noticed since being here that I myself have become a bit more direct, and I actually prefer this approach to things too. So that was something that I noticed myself doing. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing anymore, and I'm actually quite relieved that people just say how things are. So that's one of my opinions that have changed so far. Another thing I mentioned in my previous video was that when I first arrived in the Netherlands, I would wave at people or say hello to people when walking past them in the street and would often get ignored. At that time, that was true. And coming from South Africa, where you go on a dog walk or you go on a walk with some friends, when you walk past people, they say hello and you often get into deeper conversation. And my opinion on this has kind of changed. And I'll tell you where and why it's changed. It's changed in the sense that when I'm at work, people say hello, people greet me. When I've been on runs, I run past other runners and we acknowledge each other. It also depends on the area you're in, and this was a comment that came up a lot. People were saying greeting random people you encounter on the street is pretty normal in smaller cities, towns, and in my experience in big cities this happens less. And I agree with that. When I first got to the Netherlands, I was in the Amsterdam area. I wasn't living in Amsterdam Central. I was living in an area close to it called Amstelveen. And the people there are more international and less Dutch. And it seems like everyone there is on their own mission and on their own move, which could be some of the reasons why people weren't greeting me as often as when I was in South Africa. Another thing I've noticed is that when I first arrived here and I tried to speak Dutch to people, they would see that I'm not Dutch and automatically just try to get the conversation back into English, which I appreciated, but then it also goes with, okay, well then how am I gonna learn if everyone just speaks English, right? My Nederlands is no better than wat het was. Yo, I'm kidding. Oh my God, that's so bad. My Nederlands is no beter. So you're just gonna have to believe me when I say that. So basically what I was trying to say is that the people in the comments were right. When you go into smaller cities and towns, people are more friendly compared to larger cities like Amsterdam or Utrecht, where there's a bunch of tourists and people are usually busy and doing their own thing. So that is a comment I take back and something that shouldn't be generalized for the Netherlands. So the next thing I want to discuss is the biking situation. I mentioned in my previous video that I nearly got hit by someone when trying to cross the street, which was true. And I've seen other people, like especially tourists or people new to the Netherlands, arriving here and not being familiar with people on bikes or trying to cross the road and not being able to do so because they're unaware of how the rules here work. So while that is true, it is very coordinated in the sense that people stay to the left-hand side. And to be honest, I think it's so efficient that you're able to ride a bike here and move independently that way, because as someone who doesn't have their driver's license yet, and the fact that it costs almost like 4,000 euros just to get your driver's license, it's really nice to have that opportunity to still move around without a car. King's Day was another thing I brought up. I mentioned in my previous video that when I first arrived here, I had no idea what King's Day was, and I went out one day and everything was orange and I was so confused. Some people were like, how could you just walk into that? That doesn't seem to be possible. How can you not know about King's Day? I can understand that as someone living in the Netherlands and having King's Day once a year, every year, and it's in your culture, you know what it is. As someone who came here not knowing, we don't have a king or queen. We don't have that system in South Africa. So coming here, first of all, I had to learn that there was a king here. And second of all, that their birthday was celebrated once a year. And I figured out pretty soon what day that was. To me, it was a bit of a shock because everything was orange, it was music, it was festival. As someone who doesn't necessarily like large events like that, it was a little bit overwhelming. But since being here, I've kind of like put that aside and realized that it's about celebration of culture and of people and togetherness and yeah, the celebration of Dutch culture. And it's a big party for everyone and also an excuse to get drunk. I appreciate it more now. It's still something that's like a little bit like, ooh. Yeah, that was another thing I wanted to mention. And not that I don't like King's Day, it's just different for everyone. It's cool to see the whole Dutch community come together to celebrate their king, period. Now, also, weather was another thing. I mentioned in my previous video that weather here is unpredictable. One day will be sunny and then the next day it will be snowing. That might have been a little bit of a stretch, but I still agree with that opinion. I still think that the weather here is unpredictable in the sense that if you're not looking at your weather app and you are just looking at what happened the day before, for example, 2 days ago it was 30 degrees and it was hot. When you're in a country like South Africa, that will kind of be the temperature for the next 2 weeks and it won't change so much day to day, maybe a little bit in temperature drop. But the next day here, it was literally raining and it dropped down to 11 degrees. So I do still, like, in that sense, it's unpredictable, but if you check your weather, then you will know that that's going to happen. But what I meant by predictableness is that the weather is not stable. As a South African, I do still struggle with the weather here. I mean, I've been here for 5 years and I've kind of gotten used to the fact that every day is different, but I still miss the sun and I highly recommend that if you move here from a sunny country to take vitamin D and when the sun does come out, enjoy it. Other things that I didn't mention before in the previous video, which I appreciate more now. The first thing I appreciate is the public transport in the fact that I can be independent and I can go anywhere at any time. Yes, sometimes the buses are delayed or the trains are delayed or there's strikes, but for the majority of the time it's pretty reliable and it's not too expensive. So it's an amazing way if you can't rely on people around you to move you around. Luckily, I have a boyfriend that has a car, but if that isn't the case, you can move around pretty freely. Another thing that I wanted to mention is when you have Dutch friends, it's important to schedule things maybe at least a week in advance, because what I've noticed is that maybe it's not for all Dutch people, but the Dutch people I've been around rarely like scheduling and they like having a date and a time to meet and that's it. And it's good to know beforehand because Dutch people seem to be very busy. In South Africa, you could be like, okay, on one day, do you want to meet at 3 o'clock today? And you meet. With Dutch people, that necessarily from my experience, that is not the case. Another thing I appreciate, but also like I'm new to, is children independence around here. I live in Utrecht and often in the morning when I would go for a run, I would see kids playing along the street outside by themselves. Their parents aren't necessarily around, or kids biking to school, biking back home and like young, like between 6 and 10 years old. And that sort of thing just doesn't happen in South Africa because of like the crime. So that was really nice to see. But also at the same time, I'm like, how are the parents so chill about it? But that's probably just because I'm also from a different country. Also, speaking of crime, it's so nice to live in a country where that's not so big and in your face. In South Africa, when I was living in South Africa, our house had electric fences around it. We had alarm systems, we had cameras, and even then people could still get into the house. And unfortunately, so many people do get robbed and a lot of the time their life gets taken from them just because of how bad the poverty and crime is in South Africa. So it's so nice living here and not having, yes, we have cameras, but it's not like an electrical system or alarms. It's not as bad as it was there. And it's so nice being able to go to sleep at night knowing that you'll wake up safely the next morning. So that's another thing that I really appreciate and love about the Netherlands. Also, as a woman, you've got a lot of independence and freedom, which is super nice because in South Africa, I wasn't allowed to walk anywhere by myself or go anywhere by myself necessarily. I mean, even when you're out with your girlfriends, it's still not safe. So a lot of people don't know that as a woman, you've got a 40% chance of being raped in South Africa. And a lot of people are surprised when I tell them that, but it's just the truth and that's how it is. And that was one of the main reasons why myself and my family moved to the Netherlands. To say that stuff doesn't happen here in the Netherlands, but the longer I've lived in the Netherlands, the less I've thought of things being better or worse, and the more I've thought about terms as different, because it's so hard to compare South Africa to the Netherlands because it's two completely different cultures and two completely different countries. I no longer be like, oh, this is better here, but worse here. I mean, I did do that a little bit in this video, but to be honest, I am just so grateful to be living in a country where, one, I feel more accepted now, the more I've integrated into it, and two, the fact that I feel safe and independent and I can go out at night by myself and come back and I'll be safe, and I can go for a run and I'll be safe. Yeah, I wouldn't trade my freedom for good weather. So overall, I wanted to make this video to share my new opinions and my new points of views and possibly clear up some things that other people were asking. If you enjoyed this video and want to know a little bit more about me, a little bit more about my experience in the Netherlands, like this video, maybe comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Toodles.